I feel an increasing sense of my own mortality. It's not a foreboding, not at all. It's an acknowledgement, a reckoning. It's math. The math is the math. Hence this series of talks, along with 2 or 3 other deliverables I'll be pushing out this year and next. That's the plan, anyway. Creating an opportunity to restate and reaffirm the message that I have shared over these last few decades. For those in my inner circle, for any others who care, and for those brave souls who might come across this work in the future. Matthew 25:13. Ye know neither the day nor the hour. And then Matthew goes on to say, not even the angels in heaven know. Let's go with Merriam-Webster. Verity, the quality or state of being true or real. Something such as a statement that is true, especially a fundamental and inevitably true value. The quality or state of being truthful or honest. Plural, verities. Hence, verities of being. First in a series of 4 talks, shadow. I chose this image of the goddess Sophia to serve as the emblem for this series of talks. The statue in the photo is 24 feet tall and stands on a 48-foot pedestal. Erected in 2000, it towers above a main thoroughfare in Sofia, the capital of Bulgaria. A statue of Lenin had occupied that spot before the fall of the Soviet Union and the collapse of its Iron Curtain. Standing beneath that statue of Sophia, in that ancient city named for her, was a powerful experience. How had I come to be there? I had been invited to Sofia to deliver a briefing on cyber terrorism for a NATO advanced research workshop. Here is what I wrote about that. There I was, standing in the dark of night on a deserted street in Sofia, with Romania to the north, the Black Sea to the east, Greece and Turkey to the south, Macedonia and Serbia to the west. I felt the whole of Sofia's history pulsating beneath me, strata below strata spiraling backward, 8,000 years of human struggle to live, to be free, to savor this life. 8,000 years. A strange swastika made of frog legs carved into the stone by some unknown ancient culture, its name lost long ago. Then the Thracians, who gave us the Orphic mysteries, and after them wave after wave of conquest, migration, and melting pot. The Roman Empire, the Bulgar tribes, Ottoman Empire, the Nazis, the Soviet Red Army, the economic hitmen. 8,000 years swirling in a single breath. The richness and potency of this incredible saga is embodied in the statue of that goddess Sophia, Saint Sophia. She carries a bird of prey on her right arm and an olive branch in her left hand, and stands on a high pedestal overlooking downtown Sofia. Not far away there is a cathedral with 7 bells. The bells were forged from the bullets fired in the great battle for independence from the Ottoman Empire. When those bells were tolled for the first time, they shattered all the windows in the vicinity of that cathedral. Yes, Sophia, goddess of wisdom, Theosophia, Theo, divine, Sophia, wisdom, divine wisdom. By the way, in a recent scientific study of 100 names, a cognitive linguist at the University of Birmingham found that Sophia, quote, consistently ranked highest due to its soft consonants, harmonious vowels, and melodic sound. Unquote. I can confidently say I am an expert on darkness and the shadow and on evil. I have studied them all my life. That's not hyperbole. I mean literally all my life, since I was a child. And I didn't study them in libraries or classrooms or labs either. I studied them in the field, in life itself. This talk is a meditation on darkness and shadow, an exploration of their numerous dimensions. In the course of this talk, I will touch upon the nature of evil, but only in passing. Evil is not synonymous with darkness and shadow, not in the least. What is a shadow, after all? For there to be a shadow, there must be a source of light. For example, the sun. Then there must be an object which blocks the rays of that light source, a physical object, a dense form, a substantial thing, for example, the physical body of a human, let us say your physical body or mine. The object which blocks the rays of light creates its own shadow, a space of darkness, the contour of which matches that of your physical body, mysteriously, mystically, even though it only exists as a byproduct of your interaction with the source of light behind you. The shadow leads you, yes, even though it only follows your movement. It goes on ahead of you. The shadow arrives where you are going before you do, and then, depending upon the geometry of circumstance, it may vanish for a while, until you move on, interjecting yourself once again between the source of light behind you and the path ahead. Looking in the mirror, you see what there is to see. But looking into your shadow, you see what you cannot see. The shadow has so much to teach us. It carries so much information, mysterious information about where we are going and maybe even why. Om Varoshana, indigo blue of the midnight sky, all-pervading voidness, some mantra Bhadra personified. In Varoshana, the Adi Buddha, the primordial, unborn, unshaped, unmodified, Dharmakaya. Om. For those who don't know, Varoshana is one of the 5 Dhyani Buddhas, meditation Buddhas, wisdom Buddhas, medicine Buddhas. The legendary American sages Joe and Gwen Miller included a composition for each of these medicine Buddhas in their songs to live by. This is one of them. Chogyam Trungpa, by the way, called Joe and Gwen's songs to live by the first American mantras. And you can listen to them for free via the Miller Archive at sftslodge.org. The image I have chosen here is of Samantra Bhadra personified in coitus with his significant other, Samantra Bhadri, who is also considered by some to be the White Tara. Together they are Yab Yum, father, mother. Now, if you look it up in Wikipedia, it will say Yab Yum represents the primordial union of wisdom and compassion. If you look it up in the Britannica, it will say it represents the mystical union of active force or method, upaya, with wisdom, prajna. And they are not wrong. All of that is part of the truth of Yab Yum, but it is even more. Voidness and plenum, time and space, form and formlessness, dark and light, and yes, male and female. There are two stories, one from my early life and one from Joe's early life, stories I've cherished for decades. I just never connected the dots between them until now. So I'll read first from Words of Power. I was on Lake Titicaca on the Altiplano in Bolivia. When you are there, it is as if you are standing at the edge of the world. It was a vast wilderness, nothing much there, except for a little town called Copacabana. So I was in my room. I was 18 at the time. There was a cot. I was in my room. A cot, a table, and a chair. I was sitting at the table, writing in my journal, and then the lights went out. And I thought, oh, wow, a blackout. So I went to the office, and hotel manager said, no blackout. Generator shuts down at 9 p.m. No electricity until the morning. Utter darkness. Terrific darkness. I won't say terrifying. I'll say terrific darkness. Primordial darkness. I had never seen or felt such a depth of darkness before. After all, I was an urban dweller, had grown up on the streets of Manhattan and the Bronx. I remembered the 62nd and 63rd techniques of the Vijnana Bhairava. We'll touch on that text in the second of these four talks. 62nd technique. In rain during a black night, enter that blackness as the form of forms. 63rd technique. When a moonless, rainy night is not present, close eyes and find blackness before you. Opening eyes see blackness, so faults disappear forever. That night, my relationship with darkness changed. And ever since then, I have turned the statement in Gospel of John inside out, John 1:5. The one that reads, the light was in the darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. I turn it around. The darkness was in the light, but the light comprehendeth it not. Both are true. Both occupy the same space of truth. And this is from Great Song, Life and Teachings of Joe Miller. One night when Joe was 12 years old, he went out to the outhouse. Looking up at the dark sky, he saw what seemed to be two vast human figures outlined in stars, a male and a female in coitus. He felt he had seen something sacred and mysterious. Many years later, he understood the epiphany better when he came across the following footnote. Visualize the energizing aspect of the cosmos as being the Divine Father, Yab, and the intellectual aspect of the Divine Mother, Yum. Think of them as being in union, inseparably one. Realization of this divine at-one-ment is the goal, the great symbol. On one level, Joe's anecdote tells of a young boy's awakening sexuality. On another, it is a tale of a being with many lifetimes of questing behind him, receiving a message. At the age of 12, Joe had a vision in the outhouse. Half a century later, in his talks, the balancing of the polarities was a profound and recurrent theme. Yab, Yum, Shiva, Shakti, truth, love, heart, mind, form, formlessness, light, darkness, unity, uniqueness. So both Joe and I had experiences, deep, rich epiphanies concerning the nature of the indigo blue of the midnight sky. and of the cosmic tantra of Yab Yum, each in our own way, in our own circumstances, and long before we met, long before we would immerse ourselves in texts and iconographies that would explain these experiences. Om Varoshana indigo blue of the midnight sky, all-pervading voidness, Samantra Bhadra personified, in Varoshana, the Adi-Buddha, the primordial, unborn, unshaped, unmodified, Dharmakaya Om. This is a photo of a substance called Vanta Black. This image just belongs here. As out of place as it might seem, in one sense. In this presentation, it just belongs here. It's hard to explain, it just does. Manufactured by humans, Vanta Black absorbs up to 99.965% of visible light. When applied to three-dimensional objects, this substance produces the appearance of a two-dimensional surface, or void space. It's used for preventing stray light from entering telescopes. Thank you, Wikipedia. Something else that belongs here, although like Vanta Black it might not seem to, is the text of an undated, handwritten note from the great Carl Sagan, who was at the time he wrote this a mere undergraduate at the University of Chicago. Quoting the young Carl Sagan now, circa early 1950s. There is a wide, yawning, black infinity. In every direction, the extension is endless. The sensation of depth is overwhelming, and the darkness is immortal. Where light exists, it is pure, blazing, fierce. But light exists almost nowhere, and the blackness itself is also pure black, pure and blazing and fierce. But most of all, there is very nearly nothing in the dark, except for little bits here and there, often associated with the light. This infinite receptacle is empty. This picture is strangely frightening. It should be familiar. It is our universe. Even these stars, which seem so numerous, are as sand, as dust, or less than dust, in the enormity of the space in which there is nothing. Nothing. We are not without empathetic terror. When we open Pascal's Pensives and read, I am the great silent spaces between worlds. I am the great silent spaces between worlds. Now, space is consciousness, and consciousness is space. And this is not poetry. This is not metaphorical. This is mystical truth, occult truth, and increasingly scientific truth. But nonetheless, it is literal. Scientifically. But it's also true. Plainly true, brutally true, scientifically true, as the young Sagan wrote, that these stars, which seem so numerous, are as sand, as dust, or less than dust, in the enormity of the space in which there is nothing. The mystical realization that consciousness is space, and the empathic terror of the great silent spaces between worlds that Sagan invokes, both are real. Both are dimensions of darkness. Currently, humanity has only this planet, Gaia, with her 5 sheaths of atmosphere. And all that we know, all that we love, all that we create, all of it, everything that constitutes our existence, all of it, is wrapped in just the innermost of these 5 sheaths. And it stretches a mere 5 to 7 miles into the sky. And beyond that, exposed without a spacesuit, a human being will lose consciousness within 5 seconds. and die within 90 seconds. That's how wondrous, how fragile, how dangerous all of this is. It's just as space is consciousness, and consciousness is space. The void is the plenum, and the plenum is the void. Without embracing these huge, all-devouring paradoxes, we cannot approach the mysterious truths of life in the universe. So now, refocusing on the plenum, dipping deep into myth, reaching far, far back in time, we explore not the dawn of creation, but the night of creation. This is Nyx, daughter of chaos, goddess of the night. The primordial mother. She birthed powerful offspring, sleep, death, the fates. The Orphics say, this is now I'm going to read you from Robert Graves' Greek myths, quote, the Orphics say that black-winged night, a goddess of whom even Zeus stands in awe, was courted by the wind, and laid a silver egg in the womb of darkness, and that Eros was hatched from this egg, and set the universe in motion. Eros was double-sexed and golden-winged, and having 4 heads, sometimes roared like a bull or a lion, sometimes hissed like a serpent, or bleated like a ram. Night lived in a cave with him, displaying herself in triad, night, order, and justice. Eros created earth, sky, sun, moon, but the triple goddess ruled the universe. Unquote. The creative imagination has a lush atmosphere. Its soil is dark and fecund. Welcome to the true Eden. When I was a child, a small child, occasionally, with theatrical flourish, and imitating a deep baritone voice, I would declare, who knows what evil lurks in the minds of men? The shadow knows. I was quoting the opening lines of a very popular radio show, The Shadow, 18 seasons, 677 episodes, starting off with the great Orson Welles as the voice of the shadow. In 1994, Hollywood turned out an updated movie version starring Alec Baldwin. And here's the plot line. Following World War I, Lamont Cranston set himself up as a drug king and a warlord in Tibet. The Tolku, a holy man who exhibits otherworldly powers, abducts Cranston and offers him a chance to become a force for good. Cranston initially refuses and is attacked by the Tolku's mystical flying dagger. Ultimately, Cranston becomes the Tolku student, learns how to hypnotize others and bend their perception so that he becomes invisible, save for his shadow. Cranston returns to New York City 7 years later, resumes his former life as a wealthy playboy, while secretly operating as the Shadow, a vigilante who terrorizes the city's underworld. He recruits some of those he saves from criminals to act as his agents, providing him with information and specialist knowledge. His identity is largely unknown, especially to his uncle Wainwright, who happens to be the police commissioner of New York, who he has to regularly hypnotize in order to keep the police from interfering with him. And Cranston's secret identity is endangered upon meeting Margot Lane, a socialite who was also telepathic. Thanks again, Wikipedia. So that's the plot line. But there's a mystery, the plot line of The Shadow. But there's a mystery in all of this for me, a mystery concerning the radio version, the one that inspired me to burst into rooms as a little boy bellowing, "Who knows what evil lurks in the minds of men? The Shadow knows." Oh, because the show ran from 1931 to 1954. But I was born in 1953. So I was just 1 year old when the radio show ended its run. I can only assume I heard it in reruns throughout the 1950s. I did have a transistor radio that was very important to me. I remember hearing Martin Luther King's voice for the first time on that radio. Jung's body of work constitutes a staggering contribution to our understanding of psyche, individual and collective. It is of profound importance to humanity's forward movement. If you ever spent an afternoon with the collected works, or a late night with the Red Book, or a long flight with memories, dreams, reflections, you know this. Evoke his presence here because it is Jung who called forth the shadow, naming it, entering it as an explorer, and leaving behind the coordinates for those who choose to see and know what had hitherto been cloaked in darkness. Here were a few powerful observations. I've curated a few quotes on the shadow from Jung's work. I'm not going to read them all. They'll all be in the transcript. But the script for this talk. But I will pick out a few of the powerful observations from this true scientist and genuine mystic. How can I be substantial if I do not cast a shadow? I must have a dark side, also, if I am to be whole. The darkness which clings to every personality is the door into the unconscious and the gateway of dreams. The door into the unconscious and the gateway of dreams, from which those two twilight figures, the shadow and the anima, step into our nightly visions, or, remaining invisible, take possession of our ego consciousness. One cannot avoid the shadow unless one remains neurotic, and as long as one is neurotic, one has omitted the shadow. It has been believed hitherto that the human shadow was the source of all evil. It can now be ascertained on closer investigation that the unconscious man, that is his shadow, does not consist only of morally reprehensible tendencies, but also displays a number of good qualities such as normal instincts, appropriate reactions, realistic insights, creative impulses. As I said, all of this will be available in text form alongside this video. If you get rid of qualities you don't like by denying them, you become more and more unaware of what you are. You declare yourself more and more non-existent, and your devils will grow fatter and fatter. This is the Taoist symbol. It's called the Tai Chi Tu, which translates into something like diagram of the supreme ultimate. I say that this is one of the three most important symbols for all of us to be working with here in the 21st century. The other two are the Shakti yantra and the three spirals of the triune goddess, and we will go into them in part 2, part 3, part 4 of this series of talks. The yin-yang has taken on a life of its own. In our collective psyche, it is integral to what I refer to as the emerging global wisdom tradition. So much of vital importance has been brought forth through the yin-yang. Taoism itself, Chinese medicine, yin yoga, so much. And yet for many, its full power is constrained, blocked. I say is constrained, blocked, due to what I call a spiritually transmitted disease, an STD. I write about all of this in Secret Engine of the World, but I will explain it here briefly. An STD isn't a false teaching. A spiritually transmitted disease isn't a false teaching. It's more like a virus that infects a real teaching, a true teaching, and weakens it or warps it or misdirects it somehow. And the kind of analysis I am offering here is like an antibiotic to kill off these STDs. One of the most virulent strains I have identified is what I call the table of erroneous correspondences. This particular strain that this particular strain that infects many's understanding of yin-yang. And here, quote, I'll read from the Secret Engine of the World. Tables of erroneous correspondences. Tables of erroneous correspondences. That is, false characterizations drawn from the misleading misapplication of provisional symbols. It's a problem, a big problem. It's in many worthwhile books of occult lore. It's in many useful yoga teacher training manuals. It's in many of our minds. What do I mean by erroneous correspondences? For example, male, sky, sun, yang, white, active, and female, moon, earth, yin, black, passive. And it can go on and on. Table of erroneous correspondences can get very long. In the great table of erroneous correspondences, in which energies, metaphors, forces of nature, gender, different dimensions are all sorted out, separated, and wrongly categorized, and the knowledge of this table and its false correspondences supplants direct experience and eradicates wonder. Life, our beings, the universe and its elements, it is all much more complex than this table of erroneous correspondences implies. So this table of erroneous correspondences has to be broken up. Among other damaging side effects, it serves to reinforce the perversion that this is a patriarchal framework. This table has to be left behind. All of its contents have to be allowed to redefine, regroup, realign, reorientate themselves in our understanding, in our explorations. If you do this, you will see they will line up in new ways, different, very revealing ways, more dynamic ways. That's the end of that passage from Secret Engine. So really, male, sky, sun, yang, white, active, female, moon, earth, yin, black, passive. Seriously? This is the 21st century. And the yin-yang has come to us from the ancient future. It's deserving of a deeper, richer, truer telling. A deeper, richer, truer telling than the table of erroneous correspondences offers. Sun as male and moon as female. I would suggest that the sun should be seen as a great bonfire, not male, genderless. If I wanted to drive some people crazy, I could say it should be seen as a gender fluid bonfire, but let's just go with genderless. It's a great bonfire. I suggest that all of the planets and moons circling this bonfire are goddesses. at the solar system as a great genderless bonfire at the center, and orbiting it, dancing around it, revolving around it. Goddesses, suns and moons, all goddesses. Male as active and female as passive, really? You know, it's not just me and it's not just now. Shiva is in Travasana in the corpse pose, and Kali dances on him. Shiva lies prostrate and Kali dances on him. Do I really have to break down what's wrong with this? I mean, if you want to be kind, you can say it's tired, it's limited, it's square, but to be blunt, I say it's oppressive and a relic of the subjugation of women and the disappearing of the deep feminine. Male as white and female as black. Here we go again. Are you seeing it now? The insipidness of it all. It lines up all too neatly with another false correspondence. White as good and black as evil. You see it. Misogyny and racism lurk in these false correspondences. Throughout Words and Dragon and Secret Engine, I speak on the paramount imperatives of our time: altruism, sustainability, and the ascendancy of the feminine, the deep feminine. The rise of women in all areas, government, in all arenas, government, sciences, business, all of it. We are about the dismantling of the patriarchy. It is a spiritual and existential imperative, a mystical and cult imperative, an evolutionary necessity. Hashtag smash the patriarchy. Shout out Taylor Swift. After all, Words of Power is subtitled New Language for a New Reality. Let the shadows sing. Let the yin and yang rap freely for themselves. Listen, explore everything within the circle of the yin-yang is holy. The wave of yin, the wave of yang, the dash of each at the center of the other, all holy and dynamic and beyond binary. There is no evil in any of it. Which brings us to questions concerning the nature of evil and where it fits into all of this. This is a slide I used in talks from 2016 to 2020, published in Secret Engine. It is still relevant now in 2025. And, it speaks for itself. As with the three spiritual and existential imperatives I just mentioned, I've addressed the nature of evil extensively in the pages of Words, Dragon, and Secret Engine. I see naming evil, identifying it, calling it out, not so much as a moral judgment or a religious tenet of some kind, but rather as a psychological diagnosis, a medical diagnosis. I'll read you this from Words of Power. Ignorance, suffering, sin, karma, evil, each has its own flavor. Each has its own realm of experience. But ignorance, suffering, sin, and karma also have their own functions within the circle of life. Evil is of a different order. Evil does not have a function within the circle of life. If it did, creation itself would be evil. If it did, creation itself would be evil. Even if the supposed function of evil was extremely limited, creation would not be what it is. It would not have an essential beneficence. It would not be of the nature of divine love. Divine love, divine life does not, could not, would not tolerate evil. It does not allow for some function of evil within the circle of life. Nothing that is beneficent in its essence would find any acceptable role or function for evil. Any philosophy or religion or system of mysticism, esotericism, or occultism that allows some functionality for evil within the circle of life is inherently flawed. Evil is outside the circle of life. Ironic, isn't it? That evil so often garbs itself in white while projecting itself on the black and vilifying the black. But evil has no color. It's neither black, yin, nor white, yang. It is colorless. It is not part of life. It is indeed, as I said, above anti-life. It is anti-life. They said the shadow darkness as a lush, vibrant, fecund realm. Yes, there are bad neighborhoods within the shadow. But there are also art colonies and witch covens thriving there. So much of our creativity arises from the darkness. So much of our sexuality too. So much of what we experience as beauty. So much of our aesthetics. Mystery itself has its nest in shadow. I call this shadow region the scintillant deep. Consider this from the great Audre Lorde, self-proclaimed black lesbian mother, warrior, poet. Quote, "These places of possibility within ourselves are darkness, because they are ancient and hidden. They have survived and grown through that darkness. Within these deep places, each one of us holds an incredible reservoir of creativity, of unexamined and unrecorded emotion and feeling. The woman's place of power within each of us is neither white nor surface. It is dark, it is ancient, and it is deep." Audre Lorde. And consider this concerning this scintillant deep. From Toni Morrison, from the great Toni Morrison, winner of the Nobel Prize in Literature. Quote, "In talking about dark, you think dark is just one color, but it ain't. There are 5 or 6 kinds of black, some silky, some woolly, some just empty, some like fingers. And if it don't stay still, it don't stay still. It moves and changes from one kind of black to another. Saying something is pitch black is like saying something is green. What kind of green? Green like my bottles? Green like a grasshopper? Green like a cucumber? Like lettuce? Or green like the sky just before it breaks loose to storm? Well, night black is the same way. May as well be a rainbow." Unquote. This talk is a reclaiming of vast swaths of darkness and shadow, a reclaiming, a celebration, a restoration, a rebuttal to slander, a reaffirmation of the shadow's role as one of the verities of our being, an acknowledgement of its true scope and function. There's something else of vital importance to your well-being, both mental and physical, and to your very survival, that resides within the dark hemisphere. Your edge is there, waiting for you in the shadow. There's a photo of Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther costume from Marvel Studios' Captain America Civil War 2016. It's on display, it is or was on display at the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., as a gift from Marvel Studios and the Walt Disney Company. I say was or is because this blessed institution is currently fighting for its life. I can't really say more in the context of this talk, but you can Google it. You will need your edge, especially now. You need your edge and your no. Every strong yes needs a robust no. To look out for it, or more colloquially, to cover its ass. Most have heard of Sun Tzu's Art of War. Many, especially men in corporate culture, pretend to have read it and understand it, but very few really do. Well, I have, and I do. And in Art of War, the great Sun Tzu offers some profound insights on sharpening your edge and cultivating your no. Quoting from Sun Tzu now. Be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. Thereby you can be the director of the opponent's fate. Deep knowledge is to be aware of disturbance before disturbance, to be aware of danger before danger, to be aware of destruction before destruction, to be aware of calamity before calamity. Strong action is training the body without being burdened by the body, exercising the mind without being used by the mind, working I'd to quote over again because I lost my page there for a moment. Deep knowledge is to be aware of disturbance before disturbance, to be aware of danger before danger, to be aware of destruction before destruction, to be aware of calamity before calamity. Strong action is training the body without being burdened by the body, exercising the mind without being used by the mind, working in the world without being affected by the world, carrying out tasks without being obstructed by tasks, whether in an advantageous position or a disadvantageous position. The opposite state should always be present to your mind. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy, through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. Well, now you can say, Sun Tzu. The black mamba is one of the fastest snakes in the world. The venom of the black mamba is one of the most powerful in the world. The black mamba dwells in the sub-Saharan Africa. The black mamba are actually dark brown or gray in color. The name black mamba refers to the interior of its mouth. Fastest, most venomous, a worthy symbol for your edge, a powerful totem, just like the intelligent vibranium body armor of the Black Panther. Matthew 10:16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Alternately, I often hear it eternally as innocent as doves. In one of the sermons published in Strength to Love, Martin Luther King preached on Matthew 10:16. The Reverend Doctor spoke of being tough-minded and tender-hearted. Jesus recognized the need for blending opposites. This is quoting Martin now. Jesus recognized the need for blending opposites. He knew that his disciples would face a difficult and hostile world where they would confront the recalcitrance of political officials and the intransience of protectors of the old order. He knew that they would meet cold and arrogant men whose hearts had been hardened by long winter of traditionalism. So he said to them, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves." And he gave them a formula for action. "Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves." It is pretty difficult to imagine a single person having simultaneously the characteristics of the serpent and the dove, but this is what Jesus expects. We must combine the toughness of the serpent and the softness of the dove, a tough mind and a tender heart. Close quote. The great Martin King. Of strength of love, of strength to love, Coretta Scott King said, quote, the book best explains the central element of Martin Luther King's philosophy, his belief in divine, loving presence that binds all life. Quote. Next time you're at the lodge, look on the mantelpiece in the main meeting room, tucked away amidst the holy statues, votive candles, photos of beloved beings. You'll find a well-worn copy I donated to our library, this original paperback edition with its price, 57 cents, written in pencil on the title page. There's myth, and then there is myth. There's a kind of myth we rummage through in libraries and museums looking for meaning, or perhaps more precisely for some symbolic language, some storyline, some iconography with which to articulate or illustrate some under-recognized or undervalued meaning, struggling to be seen, known, felt. Many, Joseph Campbell, Maya Luna, many people have done this kind of work. But then there is living myth, contemporary myth merging and evolving before our very eyes and in our hearts and minds. This is, after all, what all myth was at some point in the distant past. Something living, breathing, emerging, evolving. We sat around the fire in our caves and then in our yurts and long houses. And now electronic devices from iPhones to iPads to wall-mounted big-screen high-definition TVs, immersing psyche in epic tales to comfort ourselves, to confront our fears and to comfort ourselves, to infuse our imagination, to strengthen our resolve, to rekindle our hope, to give context regarding some grave danger. That is what myth does. Myth in its primal purity. It helps keep us sane while the world seems to spin out of control. From Beowulf to the Iliad to the Lord of the Rings to Star Wars and Harry Potter, it has always been thus. The human species is at a critical juncture in its evolution. I have written and spoken about all of this for the last 20 years. Either we adapt and align ourselves with Gaia herself and with our better selves, or we slide deeper into madness. That's not hyperbole, it's historical fact. I say historical, not historical, but because the ascendancy of the feminine, the deep, dark feminine, is vital to our survival and to the forward movement. Yes, the rise of the deep, dark feminine in culture, in government, as I have said, in commerce, all aspects of our civilization. Now the rise of the deep feminine and the embrace of the shadow are intertwined. They are essential to each other. Indeed, you could not realize one without realizing the other. The great myths of our time, of the 20th century, post-World War II, and of the first 2 decades of the 21st century, the great myths of our time are beginning to reflect both of these profound shifts. I look at Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and yes, Star Trek and Marvel Multiverse as transitional bridges from one age to another. All were forged and framed in the last 75 years or so of the patriarchal age. But you see in each of them the labor pains of the new age which is in process of being born. If we can protect it and keep it alive, you can see this birthing in both the primordial power that Galadriel wields and in her rejection of the evil power that Sauron's ring offers. In Arwen uttering the incantation that turns the current of the river into wild horses of water to turn back the ring wraiths. You can see it in Eowyn of Rohan, who slays the captain of the Nazgul. You can see it in the world of Harry Potter. All the magic is steeped in deep feminine. Even if unspoken, all the Patronus charms are the beasts of Gaia, spirit animals, totems. You can see it in the power of the witches, both for good and evil. You can see it in Hermione Granger. Sirius Black told her, "You really are the smartest witch of your age," and he didn't mean of her age group. She saved them all several times over. You can see it in Bellatrix Lestrange. "I killed Sirius Black. I killed Sirius Black." You can see it in Rowena Ravenclaw, founder of the four houses, one of the four houses of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. And of course in Potter himself, the chosen one, being the only being to ever survive Voldemort's death curse. An infant, Potter only survived the attack through the shielding offered by his mother's love, Lily Potter, a powerful witch who gave her life, saving him. In Star Wars, there is the evolution from Leia, a warrior princess who strangled Jabba the Hutt using the very chain with which he had enslaved her, to Padma, queen and mother of the great Jedi Luke and Leia. Padma died in childbirth after violent abuse at the hands of her toxic male husband, Anakin, who would become Darth Vader. And then, of course, full on deeper into the 21st century with Rey, the feral scavenger girl who takes on the mantle of Skywalker in the third Star Wars trilogy. You can see it in the Marvel Universe. The ascendancy is moving the wicked Wanda, the Amazons of Wakanda, the Black Widow, Captain Marvel herself. And then there are fully 21st century mythology breakthroughs, for example, Maleficent and Wheel of Time. Maleficent, dark fairy, shapeshifter, phoenix, horned queen of the Moors, or the raven familiar, Moraine, the master spy in Wheel of Time, Aes Sedai, servant of all, women who can channel the one power and have been trained in the White Tower. These myths are living, breathing, evolving before us, within us. With each iteration they advance. There is still patriarchal framing that has yet to fall away, but it is falling away. And there are those too deeply embedded conditionings that have to be dismantled. As I mentioned, male active, female passive, white good, dark evil. Well, what about Star Wars? When talking about the dark side of the Force. The point here in this talk is that the shadow is a vast realm, one of the two hemispheres that define the circle of life. In the Star Wars legends, when evil emerged, it wrapped itself in the cloak of darkness. But the darkness, as we have articulated in this talk, is so much more. And after all, in Wheel of Time, evil wraps itself in white. The children of the light, a military priesthood, garbed all in white, hunting down the witches, healers, seers, sorceresses, torturing them, burning them at the stake. I enjoy imagining a fourth Star Wars trilogy, which starts with Rey returning to the remote island where the library of the Jedi had been hidden before Yoda burned it down, and where Luke had lived in seclusion until Rey found her way to him in The Force Awakens. And in this first movie of the fourth Star Wars trilogy, Rey finds a notebook Luke had hidden there, a notebook that delineates a new paradigm for living and working in, with, and through the Force. A notebook in which he sorts it all out, what light and dark really are, what evil really is, all of it. A new dispensation for a new age. Meanwhile, you have to install your own filters and translators in your viewing and sharing. But after all, it's a work in progress, this new age. The transition is well underway. The transformation is well underway with each iteration of the great myths. With each iteration, the great myths refine themselves. More are coming. They are already in the pipeline of our species' creative imagination, and we are in dire need of this inspiration, consolation, and hope. This series of 4 talks offers new perspectives, new framing, new language, new vision. I suggest to you that it is an artifact of the ancient future, one of many, one that contributes to what it means to be truly human in the 21st century. Verities of Being is meant to offer some insights on what you are a part of, how you have been provisioned for this journey, and what you are capable of. The Verities of Being is an affirmation and celebration of our primal reality. In a very real sense, Verities of Being is just a jazz composition inspired by that great proclamation of the legendary American sage Don Miller. Just be. That's how he would punctuate his teachings at every turn. Just be. Be who you really are. Just be, because I am, from the depth of what you feel. Verities of Being also draws on another mainstay of the legendary American sage Joe Miller for inspiration. As a thing is viewed, so it appears. Joe took that from his friend Dr. W.Y. Evan Wentz's Tibetan Book of Great Liberation. As a thing is viewed, so it appears. I've spoken about the singularity and written about it for 2 decades now, what it is and what it is not. And many are focused on AI and all the profound implications of all that, and it is one of the most serious issues of our time. But I say the singularity is already upon us, and we most people miss it. The singularity is us. We have created a singularity. And either we have a great leap forward or devolution or even extinction. Our world has to change. We have to change. The world that we built for better and worse has resulted in an ecological crisis, a planetary ecological crisis, a political crisis, an economic crisis, a psychological crisis, but above it all, pervading it all, planetary ecological crisis. We are reorganizing, reorienting, recalibrating, realigning our minds. It means an overhaul of our languaging on race, on gender, on our species itself, on what progress means to us, on what development means to us, and it places it within this and its place, our place, within this great green goddess, Gaia, and within the vastness, the cosmos itself. Of course, this recalibrating, realigning, reorganizing, relanguaging, of course this angers and frustrates some, annoys, intimidates some, because it undermines the foundation of their reality, or what they perceive to be reality, their worldview. Well, if your worldview, if your, quote, reality, unquote, is predicated on false and toxic disinformation, Shouldn't you want to move on? Hiroshima, indigo blue of the midnight sky, all-pervading voidness, some mantra bhadra personified. In Hiroshima, the Adi Buddha, the primordial, unborn, unshaped, unmodified, Dhammakaya. Oh. May the Vajra of the heart be realized in this lifetime. Shiva.